Welcome back to another Straight Talk podcast with All Pest Solutions. I'm Wendell Daniel, founder and CEO of All Pest Solutions, and have my son, Chief of Operations Jacob Daniel, again with us today as we try to wrap up and close our series on wildlife in North Texas. So today we have taken you guys for, 4 months now, Jacob, has it been? Mm-hmm. Working this series, and all comes down to today. And today we're really just going to talk about what the real solution to our fall wildlife fix is, and that's what we'll label it today, the big fix. That's where we've been heading for this podcast series, is why we do what we do.
There's a lot of reasons for that.
Yeah.
So, along the way we talked about just wildlife habits, habitat issues that we see every day with homeowners, whether that be food or cover or whatnot, weather changes, all those things. And that's all trying to just build up to, the style of fix that we bring to the table, how it's changed, where we started, and all that good stuff.
Yep. And when we sat down with a consumer and we educate the consumer about what we found at their estimate and we start building value, one of our biggest obstacles is we get as from the consumer is, why all of that? Why so much? Well, as you will probably say, we've done it every way we can wrong, and we've tried to do the short fix. We tried to do just fix the direct entry, but this animal kingdom is just too persistent. We do it this way because that's what works.
Yeah. Well, and it started as a need, right? Really this started in 2012 because the squirrels were chewing these houses to toothpicks. That's, the eaves, the cornice lines, the fascia boards, they were just shredding them. And they just wanted that squirrel, whatever's causing that noise, out and gone, right?
Yeah. And the other one was, as a business, we were looking at what were we turning away? What do we take to the next level? What do we add to our service to be a better provider? Yep. And that was the call we turned away the most. We had to figure it out.
Sure. Or to add to that is what value, right? It doesn't bring a lot of value when we say we're all pest solutions, but we don't do squirrels.
Right.
We don't do rats like that. That didn't equate.
They didn't fit well in our brand.
That doesn't bring value to the table.
No.
So, we tried to figure that out. And when we started doing that, we absolutely did it every single way you could do it wrong. And we literally started with just making metal, very rudimentary, which we use that's rudimentary materials.
That's the key. But the thing of it is, though, son, if you'll remember, was we were looking at our competitors, and that's all they were using.
Right.
So we just kind of followed suit with what we were seeing, and then figured out that didn't work.
Which, and it's hard not to be specific when that's what I do every day, is in the specifics on what we need to keep them out, right? But, we're talking inches of material, couple of inches at best, or foam, or steel wool and other mesh and caulking, and just we're bringing knives to the gunfight, if you will, or we're bringing less of the materials that they already have, right? We've got smart siding, and we've got older the older pressboard siding, and then now we've got hardy or concrete siding. Even all those things are not enough, but we come in there and stick some foam in there, but they chew through hardy. We're asking for a problem again in the same way.
And we fix as many competitor fixes as we do new fixes. And you guys were on one other day, then it was just a comic thing. It just rolled for days on end about this competitor fix that we literally tore out cases upon cases of caulk.
Yeah.
In basic rudimentary materials that none of it ever worked.
No. Well, in that particular house, they used aluminum. Right, they used roll aluminum metal, not galvanized steel, which is what we use, right? And they caulked the mess out of it, and then again, they sealed it. And this, I guess, is probably a segue into what we need to talk about, right? Is that the fix and the seal is all important, sure, but in the right sequential order is even more important, right? But they fixed it, they sealed it, they one-way doored it, right? So they thought they had a squirrel, but it was actually rats the entire time, right? And to this day, right now, they are still not living in the house because the rat chewed water lines all throughout the attic and flooded the house.
Yep.
Insurance is coming on Thursday to check it and make sure everything's okay.
Yeah, like what costs more, fixing it right the first time or all the devastation that come behind the shoddy fix?
And it was one one singular female rat. That's it. That's what I caught. I ripped it all out. We fixed it all up. We went in after her, removed her. This is while the house has no water in it, right? Absolutely nothing. They're still living there at this time. We caught one. Yep. But that makes probably, in that neighborhood, 5 houses where I caught one rat that figured it out, chewed the water lines, and absolutely disrupted their life.
Yeah. So let's talk to our listening audience about the big fix, what all that entails, from floor to ceiling, garage doors, AC lines. It's all encompassing with us. Mm-hmm. When we look at a house, we look at every possible entry point, and we take them all on, yep. from fascia to, dormers to gables to garage doors, and even our garage doors have evolved too, because how many phases we have now? Five. Yeah, we started with just a garage door fix, and now we've got a phase 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's just obviously just more involved at each level.
Well, and then again, I don't want to appear too overly arrogant on it, but our fixes on these garage doors are still unmatched, period. No one else does that but us. That is very industry exclusive.
It is, and it just pushes home our experience, the ultimate in value, integrity, and trust, too. It's just...
Well, we had a new evolutionary change to our process within the last month, which we didn't catch it until after the big apartment job that we did this time last year. We bought the 10-foot sheet metal brake that allowed us to make metal longer than 18 inches, which is what we've got the plan built around now.
But when you guys are hearing noises in wherever, in your attic, or you've got signs in the garage or whatever, and our guys come in, we do a no cost inspection, and we literally climb all over this house, inside, outside, upside, you name it. We come back to you. I realize sometimes it may not have been what you were thinking. It's definitely not a trip to Chick-fil-A as a cost perspective, but when we do that, it's a once and done.
Right.
We've overturned every rock in it, and we've covered all of our bases.
Well, the thing about it is that we know throughout our industry, everything that we do, everything that is competed against. I say we don't do that. Right? We try not to be reactive. We try to be proactive. Right. There's so many things that we deal with every day where other companies are reactive. You have an issue, they've tried to fix that issue. But I'm trying to fix issues before they happen in the future, right? This whole wildlife exclusion plan is built around those things. So, we know that we're dealing with the most adaptive creatures on the planet. We know that they will not stop, right? But we look at every house at an angle that is dependent on its needs, right? It is very much tailor-fit, tailor-made to their house and their house only. What we make for that house only fits at that house, yep. Right? But every house is going to have the same set of rules, right? These rodents, we can be specific with rats, mice, squirrels, raccoons, all the above, right? The vulnerabilities are always the same. It's eaves, it's roof vents, it's garage doors, it's AC lines. It could be what we call sneaky spots, a loose brick, a fence too close, a soffit vent that could be pulled down. Right, what's going to work at this house is not going to work at the one across the street. There may be similarities. Some of these houses that are running very limited plans, we could run across one that's very similar. But right. I've got 3 houses just down the road over here. They're all the same layout, but they had different garage door needs, and they had different roof needs, et cetera, right?
Yeah, and then we find issues all the time where, there's some sneaky little spot where they got in the gutter and then they got in just above it, and it was just almost impossible to see or whatever,
Yeah. But the thing is that we take the same approach. The only thing that is different is the needs of the house, right? A house with 2 eaves, of course, is much less expensive than one with 20, right? But your vulnerabilities are in the 20 eaves or the 2 eaves, not 1 or 9 of the 20, right? Well, I'm not just going to do one or the other. We're not going to do half. We used to. That's what we figured out that was the wrong way.
Right.
We're going to fix all things, or we fix none of it. Because at the end of the day, if I can't guarantee that these places are going to hold, no amount of money I throw at it, it's going to solve it, right? So,
and I think it helps our consumer too when and as much value as we build, sometimes we're still a shock factor when they go, "Wow, I didn't see that coming on the cost," and then we say, "Go shop the competitors and get a price," and then that's when it's really a value because some of our competitors, some of our national competitors,
sure.
It's double, triple sometimes what.
Sometimes, but then again, like we've talked about forever, is the standard for like just general pest control. You know that, right? Label is the law. We have to follow the label, and it makes the program very consistent, right? What we do pest control wise is only dependent on what chemical we use different from somebody else, but value going to be very similar, right? But with wildlife, there's no regulation on what we can do. The one competitor can do 2 inches tall of sheet metal to my 14 or 18 inches of sheet metal, right? And there's nothing that says I can do more or less of that. That's all dependent on the cost. But at the end of the day, we're not the cheapest, but we're not the most expensive.
Absolutely not.
It's the standard philosophy we try to use in all things. Right. It seems to be the opposite for apartments. That seems to get us sometimes in trouble, but the values are different there, and we know that. It's commercial versus residential.
Right. Yeah. In sheer numbers.
Sure.
Yep.
But there are huge fundamentals in the wildlife program that we have figured out along the way, right?
The best thing for me as a business owner that I see is we get that customer that they'll say yes. They're skeptically saying yes. They're going, "Oh, that hurts my pocketbook." Yes.
Sure.
But on the backside, when they see
when we get there
and the value and the control and the peace of mind and the quality of workmanship and that I can't tell it was done. If I wouldn't have been here, I wouldn't have known you'd have done that.
Sure.
That's when, they get it, and that really makes me proud as a business owner when they finally see what it is. Sometimes on the front side, it's really hard for them to see.
It's hard to give them the 60-second spiel, right? It's hard to give them, this is what we do, why it's better than everybody else, this is why you should do it. It's too, it's too new. Right? We can sit here and talk termites, which I'm sure we'll do in the spring, but you sit here and talk termites, that's going to trigger a response. Everybody knows that termites are expensive, so they think, right? Everybody knows that roof work is expensive. Everybody knows that plumbing's expensive, et cetera, right? Rodents is still on this cuff of, I feel like the value is it needs to be a couple $100 versus that could be a couple $1,000.
Right.
Could be. It does. Happens.
Right. But there again, as a company and a business owner, we follow and watch and really take note of all of our Google reviews. But most of our raving reviews is that wildlife customer that had an exclusion fix and then sees the value on the other side. Like
when we had to refix it.
Oh well, yeah, and just once it got control and how it looked like. You're talking about a cult following. Those folks think we hung the moon and all the stars.
I mean, I've got 8 customers right now that are rolling in and done, and we've caught and removed, and they're done. They're complete, right? They're at the stage where it's time to paint it, trying to make it look clean, trying to make it look nice, right? Every single one of those, somebody else fixed before we did, right? It had already happened. But they only fixed 1 or 2 or 3 spots, and it moved to the others, right? But I know we're getting tight on our timeline, but there is a very important thing we need to talk about here, right? It's the process and why the process, right? Why we do it the way that we do it, right? Aside from the width and the length, the needed height to solve it, right? It's twofold, right? It was originally designed for squirrels because they chew much higher than rodents will, right? We know that rodents don't need very much. Hole size of a quarter, full-grown rat can get through. Doesn't take much, right? So it doesn't take much metal to solve it, but it takes a lot to solve squirrels and raccoons and other things. So the base metal is that high for that base reason, right? But squirrels will only attack from the roof side for the most part, right? Sometimes they'll get as low as their first story off a fence and get in, right? So I can do less with squirrels than I can with rodents. If we're dealing with rodents, I have to fix everything. This is part of the sales pitch that we do every day. If I go to a house and it's purely squirrels, we're saving money, right? I can do that. Now, I'm going to look at solving a potential rodent problem in the future, right? I'm going to bid for a garage and other things later, but your squirrels ain't getting in the garage, right? But your roof rats will. They'll go AC lines, they'll get in the garage and from the eaves and from the roof vents and all the things, right? You're dealing with rats, things go up, right? I got to make more trips and more visits.
Right.
But the biggest key component that's different about our program, that's different about everybody else's, is ID the correct critter so that we can make sure we can get it out in the prompt timeline, because the exclusion is fixing all critters, but it is not exclusive, to how we control them, right? So what works on squirrels doesn't work on rats, doesn't work the same way on raccoons, etc. But how we keep them out and how the exclusion works, that is the same, right? But no matter what we are doing, exclusion happens first, right? This makes a lot of people's heads spin, right? They want the critters out before we fix it, right?
Yeah, it's the opposite.
It's the opposite. And that's how most of our competitors still do it to this day. They go in to try to catch and remove the critters before they fix it. We are going to do it the total polar opposite, because I need the fix to move the animals or adjust their mindset so that I can control them on my time, not the other way around.
Yep.
Right? So when we're dealing with rats, fix everything. AC lines, garage doors, eaves, roof fence, everything that gets sealed day one, right?
Yep.
Then we go in like SWAT for the next 2 weeks to catch and remove them.
Right.
Because in other videos, we talked about gestational periods. We talked about population and how it can grow out of control in the food sources that we can't control in some scenarios, right? The one thing I can control is what leaves that house or enters it, right? So we take a macro version and we create a micro version. If I seal it first, I can, whatever number that's in there, right? Whether that be 4 or 40 rats, that number does not change. That's the number I catch. We won't know until the bitter end of it, right? But we fix and then remove. You never fix without removing, right? I say this all the time. I never trap without exclusion, and I never do exclusion without trapping.
Right. Well, as we try to close up today, I know it's been a long series. Hopefully it's been informational to our listening audience. At the end of the day, and it's so cliche, but if you got pests, call the best. We know what we're doing. We've figured it out. We've done it wrong to know how to do it right. It may be more than what you thought it was going to be, but at the end of the day, this is your largest investment of your life, and we are trying to protect it and fortify it and still making an investment that it don't burn down, don't flood down, and don't get eat up. And, stay with us. Believe and trust the process.
It works.
It works. We appreciate you guys joining us today. We'll see you next month and start trying to pick up a little bit of spring, I guess, as we hit March.
Hopefully it doesn't ice us in again. We are late a week because of the ice.
I agree.
I didn't mean to put the juju on. I'm sorry.
Well, we appreciate you guys joining us today. We'll see you next month on Straight Talk with All Pest Solutions.